Just like now, everybody's against apartheid in South Africa. You can't find one person in America that was pro-apartheid. Even though you go back to the 80s, Reagan, they voted for pro-apartheid presidents. They mocked and attacked the boycotts of South Africa. You had the corporations had to be attacked for 2 decades or more to say, hey, stop doing business with South Africa. 90 to 80% of all the people who were in open support of South African apartheid state are still alive today, but you can't find them anywhere. And it's going to be the same way with Israel. In another 40 years, 20 to 40 years, people are going to swear up and down, oh, I never supported Israel. And Israel's atrocities are unspeakable. And we're so happy that the one-state solution, we're so happy that Palestine is now at peace. And you won't find one person that was supporting the atrocities that were going on. But everybody's supporting it now. But your grandchildren are going to read a whole different history. That's the hustle. But I got to pick up the pace. Anyway, let me just run through this list. So those are the things: propaganda, racial hygiene, eugenics, issues. But what are some things that the Fourth Reich, that the United States are now doing that replicate the Nazis? Number one, fantasy over reality. This "Make America Great Again" is a literal Nazi slogan. The United States, Nazi came to power in Germany after the fall of what was called the Weimar Republic. And they were going through a severe economic crisis, and Germany was essentially having an identity crisis. So Hitler came with all these false notions about the past, about Germany's former greatness. He came up with this concept of First Reich, Second Reich, Third Reich, when nobody was talking about Reichs back then. And if you read Mein Kampf, and I've read Mein Kampf, and it's been a while. It was way back when I was taking Western Civilization at University of Missouri. We read Mein Kampf. We had, but anyway, there's no reality. Hitler didn't know anything about history. He would think that certain fictional characters from Western folklore were actual literal people. He had all these weird ideas. He tried to tie the Romans to the German bulk. He just had all these fanciful ideas. Just as if you talk to the average American today, white American, about America being a land of freedom and opportunity, a land that was founded by people who came here seeking freedom, and America was founded on a revolutionary war against monarchical tyranny, and it was founded by a bunch of freedom-loving farmers. George Washington was a reluctant general. He was a reluctant fighter. He just wanted to farm his land and love his wife and tell the truth all the time. And Thomas Jefferson was a poet at heart, but he was forced to raise up and forced to be a reluctant revolutionary. They don't understand that these men were elite oligarchs, vicious murderers. And so when a nation's whole self-concept is rooted in an absolute fantasy and delusion. So if you have a politician that comes and tell America the truth about itself versus a politician like Trump that will come and tell the United States the most easily disprovable myths and lies about itself, people go with the comfortable lie. And the more that fantasy and delusions innovate the society, and now you even have the Texas Board of Education writing in history textbook lies, saying people were not slaves, they were just unpaid workers, and all this other stuff, and erasing and rewriting history. When you get people, if you can get people to believe absurdities, you can get them to commit an atrocity. You look at most people that commit heinous crimes on a collective scale, you'll find that their ideas are warped. You have to put this whole society in a state of upendedness, of irrationality. And the United States is as steeped in absurdist white fantasies. They even have a hit list. These right-wing organizations form hit lists where they go around saying these university professors are anti-American. They're talking about America's slavery. They're talking about atrocities in the Vietnam War. They're trying to paint America as the bad guy. I took graduate level history courses, and the history teachers would attack me. And all I would do is say, hey, this is what the book says. I've had history teachers tell me that America spreads democracy, that America never has every war that America has fought wars reluctantly. America has never fought a war that it didn't reluctantly get dragged into. America's a peaceful nation that would just prefer to tend to its own business. So that is one strong overlap between Nazi Germany and the United States government, between the Third Reich and the current American empire, which is the Fourth Reich. Scapegoating. Never want to take responsibility for their problems. The Weimar Republic, the German chancellors, the state of Germany would go off and provoke these fights, would go off and encroach on people's territories, violate treaties, and then swear up and down that they were the ones being wronged. And then when everything would fall down on them, they'd find some vulnerable minority to blame it on. Our country isn't economically in turmoil because we're allowing the rich white capitalists to hoard all the wealth. Our people aren't unemployed and underemployed because the industries have too much power over our government, not allowing our people to receive living wages. It's all the Jews. Jews and immigrants, people coming to our country that don't love our country, that don't speak the language. Scapegoating. The United States, Germany never ever took responsibility for what they did, even though they would go to poor people within their country, go to minorities within their countries and talk about personal responsibility. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. But as soon as the dominant culture gets in trouble, all that bootstrap personal responsibility talk goes right out the window. And so, you go and beat up on these people, even though beating up on the Jews or beating up on the blacks or beating up on the Latin American immigrants doesn't solve any of their problems. It's a pressure valve. It just lets off steam. And when they go and beat the hell out of a Jew or go and beat the hell out of a Honduran refugee, and then nothing changes in their lives, they always turn around and say, well, maybe we didn't beat them hard enough. Instead of beating 5, we should have beat 50 of them. Let's go beat them some more. The United States has always found a scapegoat. Oh, it's communist infiltration. It's anarchist. It's single mothers. What's causing the economic turmoil? What's causing this insecurity? What's causing this political instability? They never say it's the elite, it's the capitalist. So the United States and Germany had a long history of scapegoating, and then you have the culture wars. The war on Christmas. We're about to start hearing all that. You can't say happy holidays. The American way of life. There is no such thing as an American way of life. America has always been an amalgam of various hostile factions. Native Americans, Africans, and Europeans. And every European came over here. Jews don't like the Catholics. Catholics don't like the Protestants. The Southern Europeans don't like the Northern Europeans. Urban whites don't like suburban whites, don't like the city whites. There's never been this whole American melting pot. More of the myth. But it goes even deeper. Because now Americans are being told America's falling because of rappers don't wear suits at press conferences. And black women are wearing cornrows in corporate America. They're saying that hip-hop music is eroding the moral fabric of America. But that goes all the way back to Al and Tipper Gore. Y'all don't know remember Tipper Gore. Tipper Gore was a morality crusader. And she was one of the first prominent white people to talk about gangster rap is destroying America. But I digress. But Hitler did the same thing. Hitler said Jewish movies and Jewish music and it was ruining the mind, the morality of German, of the good Volk, V-O-L-K, folk, the Volk, the people, the masses. He would have exhibits of degenerate art, and people would walk through and look at all this degenerate Jewish art and say, this is what's bringing down Germany. This is why Germany is no longer great. And when we get rid of all this degenerate art, we will make Germany great again. And it's the same thing they do in the United States. These old white people in rural America turn on TV and look at an NBA game and they see Lizzo twerking. And they say, that's what's causing global warming. And that's why the reason I don't have adequate health care and I can't pay for my prescriptions. I don't know how they make those connections, but they do it. They did it in Germany and they are doing it here big time. So any major terrorist attack, any major upheaval, white people are well primed to begin an orgy of slaughter and murder of vulnerable minority populations that they have access to. And there are several other. Isolationism, withdrawing from international treaties and groups. Like Hitler wrote a lot of agreements and non-aggression pacts and treaties, and then he'd violate them immediately. Right now, the United States, which I wanted to go into detail on this, but I'm going to have to write this up. But the U.S. is withdrawing from the Human Rights Council. The U.S. voted against. The United States voted against the UN wanted to anti-Nazi resolution to denounce the promotion and proliferation of Nazism across the world. And the U.S. said, no, I'm not going to sign on to that resolution. The U.S. voted against the Convention on the Rights of a Child. Wilding out. The United States is no longer being pseudo-Nazis or neo-Nazis. The United States is the original Nazi. The United States is not neo-Nazis, it's OG Nazi. The United States was Naziing before the Nazis. When Hitler was nothing more than a gleam in his father's eye. The United States was getting its Nazi on. And Kwame Ture said back in the 60s, if white folks gonna play Nazis, are black people, are we gonna play Jew? When you live in a hostile, irrational, well-armed, vicious, bloodthirsty empire, what are you to do? We have citizenship, we have status and standing. Well, a lot of black people are joining this Nazi orgy, this return to overt Nazism of America. You've got a lot of black, up in certain regions, upwards of 15% of black male population support Donald J. Trump. And yes, if you support Trump, you support open fascism, you support Nazism. And yes, supporting Trump is worse than supporting Hillary. Yes, supporting the Republican Party is worse than supporting the Democrat. Yes, stage 4 metastatic cancer is worse than a benign tumor. Yes, there's levels to this. There's levels to it. You know, yes, a pedophile is worse than a shoplifter, but they're both criminals. Do you understand? I don't agree with black people being Democrats, but I don't accept black people being Republicans with this current manifestation of the Republican Party. I don't agree with black people voting for Hillary Clinton, but I don't accept black people voting for Trump. It's absolutely inexcusable. One issue we can debate about. The other issues, there's not even any room for debate. You are an enemy of the people. You are a race traitor. But go back to Nazi Germany. There's a whole book by this historian named Riggs called Hitler's Jewish Soldiers. There were many of these people called honorary Aryans. There were Jews. And not a dismissible percentage of Jews who supported the Nazis, who supported the Third Reich, who embraced German ideology, and who even fought in the Nazi army. There are many people now with the advent of DNA who thought they were full-blooded Germans, uncircumcised, full-blooded Germans, are now finding out that their heritage is Jewish heritage, and that their father or their great-grandfather became an honorary Aryan and fought with the Nazis against the Jews and against his own people. So we don't have to clutch our pearls when we got Uncle Tom sell-out bootlicking raccoons in our own race. Every group produces race. And no matter how racist the Republican get, no matter how overtly fascist, no matter how much they embrace Nazi ideology, there will be African men, black men, who will join with them. That is the reality. And that's why I'm saying we got to stop. I don't care if they're religious cults or political enemies. And when black people go that way, make them stay that way. There has to be hard and deliberate, fast consequences to betraying our people in such a manner. Anyway, Q4 Radio, AM 1680, Bro Diallo Show. There's so much to get to. But what can we do? I'm going to share this as we come into Kwanzaa season. I got to share this. So I'm gonna jump off. I'm going to share this relatively short Dr. Clark speech. After Dr. Clark, I'm going to be back, so don't go nowhere. Again, Q4 Radio, AM 1680. If you're in the city of Chicago, you can tune in there. If you're outside the city of Chicago, you can find us on the TuneIn app, iTunes Radio. Just search Q4, QUE, the number 4. And of course, always, anywhere you go in this world, you can always find us at q4.org, broadcasting live and direct. Q4 Radio, Bro Diallo Show. Please support the show if you can. This is a listener supported exclusively. I have no other sponsors or source of revenue or support to sustain the show outside of my listeners. So please, if you can, become a Patreon. If you're unable to, you can make a one-time donation at the website, diallokenyatta.com. If you're unable to do that, you can still become an engaged, active listener. Subscribe to the YouTube, share the show, go to the website, share the MP3 and the links to the show, help get the word out, share with your father, mother, lover, brothers, sisters, enemies, and allies across the world, because you are the Bro Diallo Show. The Bro Diallo Show is you, for the people there. I am because we are because I am. And without further ado, here's Dr. John Henry Clark speaking on, what was he speaking? Well, here's Dr. Clark, and he's talking about black leadership. And he's talking about Malana Karinga. That's the part I really want y'all to pay attention to. Whether you're going to make up your mind as to whether or not you're going to rock with Dr. Karinga and you're going to let Karinga claws come down your chimney and leave some dried corn at your altar or not. I'm rather indifferent, but all next week we're going to be doing a Kwanzaa show. So y'all can get ready for that. All next week we're going to have a Kwanzaa show. But like I said, let me get off here, and here's Dr. Clark.
People to say that the march was a ceremonial waste of time and a Farrakhan con game.